Hello and welcome back to Constellation Station. I'm your host Nicole. I'm an educator at the Cincinnati Observatory, and here at the Constellation Station we like to do three things. We like to learn a little bit about constellations, we like to figure out where can we find those constellations up in the night sky, and we like to figure out how we can make those constellations in our own home, how we can make our own constellations. So today we have a very, very special guest. I'm excited to introduce the moon. That's right, the moon is in our constellation today, kind of. So we're going to talk a little bit about our constellation for today and how the moon fits into this greater picture of how we see our constellations. So our constellation today doesn't really include the moon, though the moon is right next to it today and for a couple of days here. But we are actually going to talk about another constellation in the zodiac. We're going to talk about Leo the Lion. Now, I don't expect you to be able to recognize Leo the Lion back here and see a lion yet, because our lion is in kind of a weird position. It actually looks like it's diving down into the, almost down through the sky. So if you don't see it yet, that's okay. We're going to go ahead and connect the dots. And I brought a very special material today to help us connect the dots here of our constellation. So around the house I had a couple plastic straws and I connected them together to make really one big mega straw. And we're going to use a couple of these big mega straws to connect the dots today. So I want to show you how I connected the dots using the straws. So I took two straws, and on the one end of one straw, I sort of folded it over in half so it can fit inside the end of the other straw. And then voila, they stick together, and they stick pretty well. So you can tape it together if you want, if you have tape, or if you want to stick some glue in there, you can. I put tape on mine only because I made them really long, but if they aren't going to be too long, you can just sort of connect them together like that, and they should stay put. So I connected a few straws together to help us connect the dots of our constellation today. We're going to start down here with the head of the lion. So like I said, he's sort of in a weird position. So hopefully once we connect the dots, we'll be able to see this a little bit better. Here's my first of two mega straws here. And I used yellow straws so that we can see them a little bit better. And we're going to start down here at the bottom. All right, so we have our first straw connected. And I probably won't tape at every star. I just want to connect it so we can see where our stars go in this shape. All right, so we have started with the head of the lion here and going back into the body of the lion up here. And now I'm going to use my second mega straw to connect the rest of the dots. So I ran out of my yellow straws, so I moved on to these red-orange straws. So we're going to use these for the rest, and I had one more yellow for the end here. So there's a really special star in Leo, one of the brightest objects in the sky that we can see at night. We've talked about a few really bright objects, so this is maybe a little lower down than some of our other stars that we've talked about, stars like Sirius. But we have another star. It's special in a different way. It's special for maybe my Harry Potter fans out there. So the most famous star of Leo is this blue star right here. And remember that the reason I have different colored stars up here is because the stars really are different colors. And Regulus this blue star right here, you may recognize that name from Harry Potter, Regulus Black. Regulus is a bright blue star, and actually there's more than one star that make up Regulus. There's a couple different stars orbiting each other, but the biggest star is a blue star, so when we see it up in the night sky, it looks just a little bit blue. So when you're looking for Leo the Lion, you'll probably see Regulus before you see anything else. But tonight, if you go outside, if it's not too cloudy, I know sometimes it's a little too cloudy to see our constellations, but if it's not too cloudy, you can go outside and actually find Leo the Lion in a different way. You can find it by looking for the moon. The moon is right next to Regulus today. So right now it's in what we call a waxing crescent. So our moon is almost a waxing quarter, which means we can see a quarter of the moon at a time. Right now it's in a waxing crescent, so it's forming, slowly forming, going towards a full moon, away from a new moon and towards a full moon. And if you find the moon, you can see that it's sort of being circled by the head of Leo the Lion. So you may need to sort of turn your head to the side to be able to see it, right? So we see the head of Leo the Lion, and then the body going up like this, and the moon kind of right in the middle. So if you can find the moon, our waxing crescent moon, up in the western sky about 9:45 tonight. We've had to move our times later and later because the sun goes down a little bit later. So as we get closer to summer, so the beginning of summer, it's just going to get, our days are going to get longer and longer. So around 9:45, you should be able to see the moon and our constellation of Leo the Lion. So western sky at about 9:45. Now I say that the moon can help us find this constellation, and some of you may be thinking, does that mean the moon is a part of its own constellation? And that would be really cool if we could include the moon, because it's so easy to see, right? You could see the moon, find it, it's really big and bright up in the night sky because it's the closest object in outer space to us, other than maybe some of our satellites orbiting the Earth. It's our one of the closest objects in outer space to us, which is why we can see it so well. But the moon actually moves in a different pattern than the stars. We've talked about how the stars change seasonally, so we see them the same every year, but from season to season we see different constellations. The moon goes through a cycle where every 14 days we get a new phase. It follows our phase patterns of the moon. Right now I said we're in a waxing crescent. We could be in a waxing quarter. There's new moons, full moons. And so instead of being on a more seasonal cycle, it's a 14-day cycle. So that's actually how we created our months. We created months around the moon cycle. And so it never really fits in with the stars. We can't really figure out, okay, well, the moon is always with this star, so it can be a constellation together. Not really. We haven't really figured out those patterns because they move at different times. So instead, we use it to help us find different constellations in the sky. Sometimes it gets really close to a constellation, and that can help us find the constellation. Or it gets really close to a planet, that might help us find the planet. But astronomers are not always the fan of a moon. If you've ever been outside when there's been a really big, full moon, you've noticed it might actually feel a little brighter outside even though it's at night. And that's because the moon gives off so much light that sometimes astronomers want the moon to get out of the way so that they can see the constellation behind it. So the moon can be our friend because it can help us figure out maybe the constellations that it's nearby. But if it gets too close to our constellation, we won't be able to see all the stars. It's like light pollution here on Earth, but instead of the light coming from Earth, it's coming from outer space and still blocking all those stars. So the moon is both friend and foe, but we need it, so I guess it can stay, and we definitely need our moon for our tides and for stability of our seasons. So like I said, I used straws today to make my constellation. I hope you find ways to make your constellations in very creative ways using different materials around your home. And don't forget to share your constellations with us by hashtagging Constellation Station on Facebook or Instagram. And we'll be back next week. So I hope to see you guys again next Thursday at 11 a.m.